Hi, everyone. My name is Cal Marquez. I work for Bywater Solutions. We are the vendor that is helping launch and supporting your ASPEN discovery layer. So I'm going to be using ASPEN, the term ASPEN, all throughout today's session. So what that is it's your new catalog, your new OPAC. So it sits atop your ILS. And our focus is really on the patron experience. So after I do my little intro, this whole time I'm pretty much going to be like sharing my screen for the next hour and a half, and I'm going to be walking you through what a patron's going to see, how they're going to search, what their account looks like, how they're going to be able to manage their checkouts and their holds. In ASPEN, one of the things that you'll notice is that it's very visual. And one of the things that we try to do is make it very easy and intuitive and familiar. So a lot of our goals are to mirror ASPEN and your new catalog off of popular services like a Netflix or a Hulu or other recognizable platforms where someone who's maybe never used the library or hasn't been to the library in many years will still be able to go onto your catalog and find what they need and hopefully find more than what they need, and that they'll be exposed to other things like recommendations that they might be interested in reading or checking out or listening to, watching. So we're going to look at those things today. Other things, your core ASPEN team that I've been working with for the last few months, I think some of them are here. So as we go through, if you have any questions, the chat is open at the bottom. Hopefully while I'm talking, if Corey or Chantry or Katie or Desiree or any of them are in here and you all can answer questions for me, that would be amazing. But I also will stop maybe like every 5 to 10 minutes and just give anyone an opportunity to ask questions in chat. But we do have a large group, so I want to make sure that everyone, questions are answered as we're going through. Anything before we get started? Okay. Also a little bit about me. I live in St. Petersburg, Florida. Everyone in our company is fully remote. There's about 40 of us, and pretty much all of us are ex-librarians. So I was a librarian in public libraries for 8 years prior to this position, where now I get to help libraries launch their catalogs. So it's really awesome. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Today, I'm going to be demoing on 2 different libraries. So Natrona I have up, and also Park. So if you didn't see your catalog today, I'm sorry about that. I think maybe you already have access to your URLs, but if not, you will shortly. So I'm going to go over as many features as I can today, but not all of your catalogs might look exactly the same. All right, let me share my screen. Yes, and this will go until, well, I'm in Eastern, but yes, it's an hour and a half. All right. Okay, let me move this over. Okay, so like I said, ASPEN is extremely visual. So we rely heavily on cover imagery. So we want to create the experience of in library browsing, like you all create so many amazing displays for your patrons online. So we want to give them the experience that from home, it's almost like they're, walking through your stacks or looking at your displays to get, interested in covers like you would at like a bookstore in the library. So it's very visually like engaging as you're, searching and browsing through ASPEN. In ASPEN, we have what we call browse categories. So again, these become kind of like your themed displays. So your staff and your admin team going forward are able to maintain and create these based off of any topic that you like. So right now, a lot of the libraries are set up with a few default things like new fiction, new teen, new children's, new movies, but there's endless opportunities for what you could feature on your site. So sometimes things like holidays, or maybe a popular author is, has just passed, or you're celebrating an anniversary of a popular book or something like that, all those different things that we celebrate throughout the years in libraries, you could totally create a browse category based off of that. And we're going to talk about browse categories a lot more in just a minute. But the overall browsing experience, these are your browse categories, again, very visual. Your libraries will have menu links along the top. So these will, again, change depending on the library, but this should take you out to your library website when you click on that. We have information here for Go Wild, so this is linking out to those wild libguides that you are probably familiar with already. There's some information about digital library offerings, and some of these menus do expand down. And then we also have what we affectionately call our hamburger menu over to the side. That's going to be a more direct link into the patron account, another area that takes the patron to their library website. And then there's information like your hours and location information. So if you're a system that has multiple branches or different locations, you will have a drop-down menu where you can select those different locations to see the hours, the address. Also, we have a Google integration. So if you were to click on these directions here, it'll pop up a Google map for the user and just better direct them to that site that they're looking at. And there could also be some other customized links in here. It looks like there's another link for web resources here. But again, this might be a little bit different for all of your different library catalogs, but just know that they're fully customizable. Your ASPEN team has created them kind of based off some of the links and things that you might have had on your catalog currently. Other things right before we're even logged in, I wanted to point out the opportunity for translating the catalog. So right at the top here, you have a button to move the catalog from English to Spanish. So right when a user goes ahead and clicks on it, it automatically changes a lot of these menus into the translated version. And if I was to perform a search, I would be able to see a little bit more of that as I go through. So I'm just searching right now. So you'll see like Libro instead of book, place a hold. So the catalog will automatically translate once you enter that translation version. And then you can just switch back and forth. So you could go back to English. Okay. All right, so let's talk about signing in. So there's a very prominent sign-in box right at the top. When you go to sign in, it's going to ask you for a library barcode, PIN, password. Again, these labels might vary depending on what your library refers to those things as. And there's a couple options here. So let's say I forgot my PIN or password. There'll be a link that says that I can reset my PIN or password before I've logged in. So it's helping the user, get those credentials right away. And then for some of the libraries that allow self-registration, you will see a link that says don't have a library card, register for a new card. And this will take the user again out to a form. So in this case, it has, the Park County resident information that you require proof of current local address and photo ID. So this messaging, again, will be different depending on what catalog you're on. And then the user will be able to fill out and register right through ASPEN for that library card. If you don't offer that now, it's probably not set up now, but for the ones that had already been offering that, we carried over those settings. Okay, so let's sign in. And I have a test card here that I'm going to use. And I'm probably going to get stuck on the self-registration form for a second. All right, so when you log in and you're not on the self-registration form, you should go right into your library account. So this is what the user's library account looks like. And actually, I'm going to show you on Natrona's because the Natrona patron has things checked out. So right now, this user is not a very active library user and zeros aren't really fun to demonstrate. So let me go over here and do the same thing. I'm going to log in with somebody that has things checked out on it. And all right, sign in. And I don't want to save this. Okay, so this is a more full active account to show you. So I can clearly see I have an account summary that I have 7 things checked out. Right now, thankfully, I have nothing overdue. I have 6 holds and then 1 is ready for pickup. If I click into any of these, it'll give me more information about those, 7 checkouts. So let's take a look at my checkouts. Okay, so the visualness of ASPEN carries through. So the cover that I would see in the search, it comes into my checkouts and also my holds. In this case, this is an e-audiobook from Overdrive. So in ASPEN, we put as many of your e-content providers all in one place. So as you'll see, I'm trying to make this a little bit bigger. I have all of my checkouts right here. So right now this patron has 7 things checked out in total. Physical materials, I have 3 things checked out. So if I just want to see what's due back at the library or what I have on my nightstand, I could check this. But then also I have a separate tab that's just my things from Libby by Overdrive. So I can manage everything in one place. The default view is going to be for all, but if users prefer to, move throughout the different offerings, they definitely can do that. If it was something that I could access online, like an Overdrive, I could go right out to that item and I could access it online. I could also perform everything like my returns right through this interface. And then if there was options for, let's say, a renewal, these are the physical items, I would be able to perform those renewals right in my account. Another thing that we talk about a little bit is, where I've talked about a little bit, is getting exposure to other things that you may be interested in. So let's say I just finished Wild and I'm ready to return it, but now I'm ready for my next thing that I want to read. You will see in the account, there's also, you might also like. So when you click on that, it's going to make recommendations. So you'll get 3 recommendations based off the bibliographic data of that item that you read. And also based on availability. So we don't want to show patrons things and like tease them with, items that have 200 holds, for example, on the list. But we want to show them like things that they can access now. So you'll see some of these recommendations throughout. What else? There's some sorting capabilities in here. So I have a long list of checkouts, let's say. I can sort by the format or the due date, the title, the author, and things like that. The user will also see the hours of their home library. So if I know I have to return these books at a certain time, but I look at my hours and I say, oh no, it's 7:05, the library's closed. We put messaging throughout the account to let the users know that, the library is closed clearly, or these are the library hours for today as I'm looking in my patron account. I'm going to show you holds and then I'm going to take just a quick break for questions. So let's look at holds. So everything that you saw on your account here also corresponds to these selections over here. So this holds, if I clicked on holds with this number, I could also click on titles on hold. It's going to go to the same place. So let's take a look. So these are my holds. Again, I can see them all by default. I can just see my 2 physical items. Teaser, which I'm going to talk about more in a little bit, but you can also see your Vdx requests all in one place, or interlibrary loans, whatever the terminology that you all use for it. And then again, you can also see any Overdrive items that you have ready. Anything that's ready for pickup or available for you to check out now, for example, on Overdrive, will pop to the top. So right now I have these pending in Overdrive, and I can clearly see that this one's ready for me to access now. So when it's ready, I can just go ahead and check it out. I can cancel it. I even have an option in this case to preview it. So sometimes with Overdrive, you'll see maybe like an audiobook snippet if it's an audiobook, or you get like maybe the first chapter if it's an ebook that you can access right away while you're waiting. This is another example of just all the holds and the things that are ready now. You can also cancel your holds right through here. You can freeze holds. So let's say I'm going on vacation and I know I'm like next on the list and I really don't want this thing to come in while I'm on vacation. You can freeze that hold for, let's say, a week. And you could just go ahead and freeze it. Oh, that did not work. Something with the holds expiration date. We'll have to look at that, but you should be able to freeze your holds and wait like an additional week or a couple days or something if you're going out of town and you don't want to miss that. Get rid of that. Same thing that we saw with the checkouts. We have withholds while you wait. So in this case, I'm number 45 out of 139 people. So I might have, you know, a little bit of a wait. So if I click on while you wait, I'll get some of those recommendations of different titles that I can access right away. And when I click on it, it'll take me right out to that record. Again, with holds, I can sort by my position, for example, like maybe that's like what's going to be upcoming next. For example, you can sort by that or the date that was placed, just some other, you know, information as your holds list and your count starts to grow. Let's see, before I get into the other settings in the account, do we have any questions about like the interface for the checkouts and the holds right now? Let's look at chat. Okay. If you have a book and earn my loans, how do I add a different library to my account? That might be a Katie question. Katie, do you know for the Vdx question in chat? And let me look at the ebook question. So can you tell if a Libby hold is an ebook or an audiobook? Sure, yes. So in this case, we have EPUB. So it is an ebook, but it should, if it was an audiobook, I believe the format would be here and it would be, it would say like e-audio or maybe it might say MP3 or something. I don't have an example of one checked out right now, but on this account, but you should have the format information there for you as well. Okay. As well as, is Wild still the default password for accounts? Again, this might be like an admin team question.
It depends on, I'll just answer real quick. It depends on your library. You can, most libraries have it set up as Wild, but it can be changed to something else. Instead, it can be an auto-generated number or it can be something, another word. You just contact the Wild office if you want to change it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to keep going with some other account functionality. So as you can see, this person owes $1 in fines. So I can, oops, I clicked on the wrong thing, sorry. I can click into my fine section to get more information about what that fine is. So it looks like I got this fine on September the 7th for a book bag, and it's, $1. So this is coming in again through your ILS. So that information will display for your patrons for their fines. We also have a library card tab here. So if I'm accessing ASPEN on my phone and you all have like a self-check kiosk or something like that in your location, this becomes a scannable barcode for that patron. So they are able to, like with their phone and their account pulled up, they could scan this barcode. So essentially it generates that library card for them in their patron account. I'm going to come back to some of these things, but just know under account settings, there's a few other options for preferences. This might depend a little bit like how your configurations are for your library. But one thing to note is for your non-English speakers, for example, they can choose if they want, when they log into their catalog, for it to automatically change to Spanish. So there is like a built-in language option there for them if you do have those patrons that you're trying to assist. Contact information. This isn't all filled out right now. This is a test patron. But again, I would just say like explore some of these account settings just to know what's visible to your patrons when you go live. Okay, and there's an additional option for resetting the PIN and password once the patron is logged in. So let's say I know my password's 1234 and it's just not that secure, and I really want to update it, for example, the user can, once they're already logged into their account. So the first time I showed you when the login screen, I forgot it. I don't know what that PIN password is. In this case, I know what it is, and I just feel like it's not as secure, or I feel like if there's been a breach of security, I could put that old password in, and then I could create a new password here, and then it would update it in the Patron account. Okay, like I said, I'm going to do some things in the catalog, and then I'm going to come back and show you things like your lists and some areas where ASPEN is making additional recommendations for the patron. So before I get more into searching and things, anything else right now? Question, will the barcode be available in the new app? Yes, it will. When patrons decide to reset their PIN, is it automatically changed in our ILS? Yes, the updates, ASPEN and your ILS are talking constantly. So it should be pretty instantaneous, if not 30-ish seconds or so, or a minute or something like that, where their PIN and their contact information is updated. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go back out to this little book, which is going to take me back out to where we started with our browse categories, and talk a little bit about searching and a little bit more about the browse categories. So browse categories made by your staff or your admin team, your WYLD team, can be based off of either a search or a list. So if you're curious, what does new fiction mean? You know, like, what is it based off of? You could click on this little magnifying glass for any of the browse categories. So it'll pop up here, and you can click, and it will take you right out into either that search or that list that it was based off of. So we're going to talk a lot about facets in a bit, but in this case, it's showing books, graphic novels, large prints, and it's an audience of adults. So it's taking out all of like the children's and teens items in this specific browse category. And these are items that were published from 2021 to the future. So we're trying to look at our newest items based on this search or this browse category. So again, like new teen, if you're like, why is this thing showing up there? You could click on new teen, and it would take you out to the filters that were applied to that browse category. For searching, since we're kind of seeing some searching, let me just go back. There is a search bar on every page in ASPEN. So we're always prompting folks to get back to that search. We have a really great relevancy in ASPEN, which we're going to look at in a bit. But I would say like 99% of the time, users are going to be performing a keyword in library catalog search. So like a general search, because like a Google bar, when people see a search bar, they're not always thinking like librarians with, like Boolean terms and things. They're just like in their head thinking of maybe like a subject area or a piece of a title. So ASPEN's going to try to, make matches to those behaviors. But if you really want to dial down into other types of searching, I did just want to show, I'll make this a little bit bigger. There is the availability for a title search, a start of title search. So maybe for something that's like more common, or you don't remember the full title, a series search, you could search by just an author, a subject, and then also down here is where we have the advanced search. So let me just show you what that looks like real quick. Okay, so there's a number of filters available in the advanced search. So if you wanted to search by like movie rating or, language, genre, there's going to be a lot more available within the advanced search than just the keyword search. I will say that if you have a strong dependency right now on an advanced search, we hope that might lessen with ASPEN's relevancy. So let's talk a little bit about that. If I were to search, Harry Potter in your catalog right now, or in some popular catalogs, it might be searching by the most recent, it might be showing you like the most recent thing that matches Harry Potter. So we see like recipe books, or, there's like a spell book that came out in, more recent years, like 2021 or 2022. Aspen's relevancy is based on multiple factors, but the key ones are the number of copies that you all own, the number of times that that thing has been circulated, the number of times that that thing has been placed on hold, the number of times you've reordered a copy of that thing. So there's a number of metrics that it's looking at to boost what we think folks are looking for to the top of your search. So in this case, it's going to show like the book series before it shows any of the little like specialty things that have been, you know, published in more recent years. It also helps for things that are, you know, common, like the help. Those are very common words. It helps to boost titles that at one point were very popular, but also very common to the top. So we're showing the help first. Let me just try. I remember when Becoming was super popular and I was working in libraries, and it was like on the 8th page of results, and it would drive me crazy just to go in and, you know, help a user get that title. So just to kind of show you just a couple of searches like that. So by default, Aspen's going to fall to that relevancy, that algorithm. So that's what we call best match. But if you're not getting, you know, what you expect, or you just kind of want to change up your search, maybe you want to see, you know, things that you all just purchased, or something by a publication year, or by author, or by title, or even by number of holds, you're able to, you know, sort those search results right through here. So just know by default, it's going to try to make its best match, its most relevant match to your search, but you do have some options to sort those results if you're not, you know, getting what you expect. With that, we also have some facets along the top, or icons along the top, to help folks narrow down the type of item they want to consume, basically, or the type of content and how they want to consume it. So let me just do a blank search, which I love that you can do a blank search in Aspen. And this is going to just default down to everything that's available in my catalog. So I can see everything at all WYLD libraries that I have access to. In this case, I can see just this library system and what is owned by them. I can also see what's on the shelf at one of these locations right now, if I were to toggle over to that. And then I can also see, I'll wait for that to pop up. So it's changing my results. And then I can also see if I just wanted to do what's available online for me, that this library owns, I can do that as well, or library system owns. So let me just click back into here. Okay, so then I also have these options here with these icons where I can look at, let's say I don't read books, I just want to stream, or, you know, I just want to see an e-video, or let's say maybe a DVD or a Blu-ray disc. So those would all be grouped together by the type of way I'm going to consume that thing. So if I just want to see all those like movie type formats, I would click on this. If I just want to see, and as you can see, it's got Blu-ray and DVD, and, you know, now we're seeing 4K DVDs that libraries are acquiring. So that would all be in that same grouping. If I went to music, it should be, maybe you have some vinyl records. Oh, that's not working. Let me write that down. DVD. It should be your music CDs and your audio cassettes. It should have, like I said, like vinyls. Oh, I think I have both of them on right now. That's why. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, there we go. Your music CDs and your audio cassettes. If you have vinyl records, they would all be in that type of grouping. And then the same with the other icons that we have at the top. So with that, if I was just looking for a specific type of format, we do have a format facet right over here along the top. So this would be in that case where I just got, let's say I just got a Blu-ray player and I'm looking for at my library which Blu-rays they have. So this is going to be more like micro level of formats that I want to look at. So you can get an idea of what offerings the library might have. So in this case, I want to just see Blu-rays. If I did that, then it's going to limit me down just to those Blu-ray formats. So those are just very helpful when you're, getting a patron what they need and the type of way that they want to access that item from your library. With those facets, there's a ton available over here. So we have things like fiction, nonfiction. It's just reloading right now. Things like the audience. So maybe you just want to look at adult or teen. You have the availability for or the access to look at your e-content collections. So some of you might have LinkedIn Learning loaded and your Overdrive loaded, but depending on what your catalog setup is and what you're subscribed to, you have some access over here to the different e-content collections. And then there's things like publication date, shelving location, language, subject. All of these can be expanded, and you can, take a look at the different facets that are available for you. These facets are sorted by relevancy, so the highest number first, and then when you click on it, it's going to go to alphabetical. So just a little like user experience type thing to understand what those are based off of. Before I dive more into what we're looking at here with the records, any of those like search things that I just talked about that anyone has questions about? Okay. Give it a second, take a sip of water. Okay. So you might be noticing that the record grouping or the records look a little bit different than maybe you see in other catalogs. So in ASPEN, we use a process called Ferberization or record grouping or grouped works, whatever you want to refer to it as, to show all available formats in one place of the same title and the same author of a work. And also the same expression of the work. So what that means is when we were looking at, let's look at the help. And let me just make this a little bit smaller so we can see. Okay. So in this case, we have the book, the expression of the work, the printed, the printed word of the help, the same title, the same author. We're seeing all the different formats that the library has access to. So there's a regular print edition, there's an audiobook CD, there's some things on Libby available. So there's an e-audiobook, ebook. There's also a Kindle version if I just have a Kindle and that's important to me. But we don't see grouped together, for example, the DVD, because that's a different expression of the work. But you might see in this case that if you had that Blu-ray or if you had that 4K DVD, that they would all be grouped together on a work. So we're looking for this, again, the same title, the same author, or for like a DVD, the same movie type company, so like Paramount or something that, produced the thing. And then also any related formats, we tried to group them all together. The nice thing with this is if someone really, doesn't care, or they have that book report due tomorrow, or, their book club's reading something and they just need to get their hands on something, you can quickly, just by searching for that title or that author, you can get a quick summary of everything that's available in your catalog, and you don't have to like scroll through pages and pages of items. So in this case, I can see green on shelf. I have this thing, so I can get this patron the audiobook or the book today. And if they wanted something online, unfortunately the e-audiobooks checked out, but I can get them the ebook or the Kindle version. So what we're trying to do is just make it super clear to patrons what is available right now or as quick as possible for them. And then with this, under the same type of idea, let me search for something like a classic title, or maybe Harry Potter would have it. Let's see. Yeah, so for those classics that maybe you own multiple copies of Harry Potter because it's been printed by different companies over and over again, or Pride and Prejudice or Huckleberry Finn, or, those just classics that we might have all kinds of different versions of. In your previous catalog, it might live on separate bib records. So what ASPEN does is it actually groups them all together in one place. So you can see if there are multiple editions of a work, it will have a button that says show editions. So you can expand that and get more information. If someone does need, for some reason, like I need the 1999 341 page, edition of that book for my class. But otherwise, what ASPEN's going to do is it's just going to get the patron as quick as possible that one of the editions that's available. So we're not getting so hung up on having you all have to search for multiple pages of information about what's available right now. And most of the time patrons, they don't even know maybe that Scholastic had one in 1999 and then it was reprinted again in 2005 or so on. That's more like a library kind of thought. So in this case, what we're doing is we're grouping things together for patrons. So when they place a hold, they're just going to get a thing, the fastest thing that's available that they have access to of those editions. Okay, I have a question here. So what is the Ferberization based on? If one is somehow not included, how do you fix that on the back end? Okay, so Ferberization looks at exact title, exact author, and then the expression of the work. So we'll definitely see sometimes where that is broken. Things like series, sometimes the cataloging might be different, where we see it a lot with series, where sometimes maybe the book number is in the title in some cataloging, and then the book number is not in other cataloging. So sometimes, yes, they might be split apart, but it does a really good job of trying to group things as much as possible. Your WYLD team can manually group things if there's something that you come across that's not grouped, but I'll leave those like workflows of how they want you all to handle that going forward. Obviously let them speak to that. I'm not sure how they can handle that, but okay. The other question is, can we set the cover art to match the most recent edition? So the cover art changes are a global change, so it would change all the catalogs in the WYLD system. There are ways for folks to change the cover if you don't like it, but it would be a change to all of the libraries' views on their catalogs. So again, that's something like I would default to the WYLD team to how they were going to handle that, because the cover images are coming in from a variety of places. They're coming in from your e-content providers. If you have them on your ILS, you can just like manually upload a cover image to things. So they could be coming in from a variety of different sources. Let's see what else we got. Will we be able to text ourselves call numbers? No, that is not a functionality that we have in ASPEN for texting call numbers. Never heard of that. Okay. Is there a cataloger view to see only one specific bib record or one particular item? Yes. So if you wanted more information about a specific title, you could click into it and get more information. So, or a specific edition. We're going to talk a little bit more about this view, but there is a staff view that's available where you can see all the full mark data. It's collapsed by default, but if you really wanted to look for that type of stuff in ASPEN, it is available. It's just more hidden because we're trying to make it more like patron friendly. It's not super like staff focused in that way, but it should be available for you all at the bottom of the record, and it's just collapsed. Would a large print version of a book fall under the Ferberization and appear under editions? Yes. So they should be split out. And if they aren't, we can look at why they're not. Okay, let me make a note. If there are large print editions, we separate that out as a separate format so that when you're looking in a record, it should be very clear that it's a large print for those folks that need access to a large print. Another thing to point out with the sorting of the formats on the group work. book will always be at the top. So literally the word book. So BOOK will always be first. Our preference is that, folks are maybe looking for the actual like print edition of the work. And then everything else that you have format wise will be alphabetical underneath book. So just if that helps you with like scanning a record to see, what formats are available. Okay. All right, let me do a couple more search things and we'll dig a little bit more into these records. Okay, so Harry Potter is a good example. Let's say I search Harry Potter, for example. Or as you can see, I'm just, starting to perform a search. I just wanted to show you that there are some search suggestions that will pop up for folks. And these are based off of like your subjects and different data points in your MARC records. Also, let me see if this works. Sometimes this works. Like if I think I'm searching memory and I do a keyword search, ASPEN switched my search to instead memory instead of memory. And it will say, just like when you search in Google, that it's showing results for memory. But if I was really insistent that I meant to search memory, I could click on that. And it's actually going to say, well, we don't have anything called memory. And then it's going to give me some spelling suggestions. So we have memory, we have mentor, mentry. So depending on what kind of like misspelling or type of search that a user might have like messed up a bit, ASPEN does have a couple of ways to point users into a better direction for them. We talked a little bit about series. Let's look at Captain Underpants and just do like a keyword search. Okay, so I know that series can be challenging, especially if you're not like a youth services librarian and you're trying to help someone with a series search. So I just did a keyword search for Captain Underpants. But I just wanted to point out that there is this series information here and that it's hyperlinked. So if I were to click on this hyperlink here for Captain Underpants, it's going to change me to a series search. So now when I scroll through, it's just showing me items that have been tagged somewhere in the MARC records as belonging to the Captain Underpants series. So as I scroll through, sometimes it will put it in exact order, which is like amazing when that happens. But I will say it's not always 100%. This one looks like it's doing pretty good. Oh, we skipped from 5 to 7, but the first 5, they were right in the order, which is really nice. And I just know this is like such a pain point for me when I was a librarian, helping folks get that series information. So just know that there are some kind of like tools within ASPEN to help you with that. When you click into a series title, so let's click in to a record, we do have this functionality built in called More Like This. So for a series, sometimes it'll just show the other titles in the series, but then it also might show information about other series that the user might be interested in. So this is just an additional like nice functionality. It's based on just the records that you own. So this isn't like a generic database that we're pulling from. So if the user were to click on this title and they say that they're interested in it, they would be able to see, okay, this is on shelf and I can access this today. So helpful with series. Let me go back. Just wanted to show you one more thing with these hyperlinks. If you were to click on the author hyperlink, so I look at like Dave Pilkey, if I click on him, we'll see that there's a little blurb about him that pops up, and it also changed me to an author search now. So now I'm seeing anything written by him. This is a Wikipedia integration. For more popular authors, it's typically between like 1 and 3 paragraphs that might show up. And more popular authors typically have like a photo of them that will just automatically pop up. All right. Let's go back. Okay, so now that you're kind of, searching and you're getting more accustomed to finding what you want, let's talk a little bit about availability. So there is this show all copies view here. So when I click on that, that's going to give me information about the number of copies that are available and the call number, and then also where it's shelved. So in this case, Neutrona owns 2 copies. There's one available right now. It's in the fiction section, and the call number is Austin. So this information is available just to quickly help a patron. And in some cases, there will also be a preview available as well. So I could just look at this and say, okay, I know that there's one available. This is the call number here. This information is also available. Let's just click in again. Let me find an addition. Here under the copies information. So this is just what I saw before, that I have this one in the fiction section, call number Austin, status, it's on the shelf. Again, we're seeing like more like this. So if I like Pride and Prejudice, it's giving me some recommendations of other titles that I might enjoy. And some of that other cataloging data is available down here as well. So if you wanted to see additional subjects, this would take you out to a subject search based off of this. If I wanted more information about maybe the ISBN or the Lexile, there's all kinds of like good little nuggets about the title within the detailed record display. And we also have an integration with Goodreads that pulls in reviews from Goodreads, and also a patron can log in to Goodreads and add a review as well. Okay, before I place a hold, any questions about what we're seeing here with the copy information, the different, I showed you a little bit of like the author search and the series search, things like that. This is my water break. Yes, the other items you might enjoy is based on the bib record and no other data. So again, it's specific to your collection. So if you were to go on another ASPEN site for another library that has ASPEN, you might, if you look at the same record, it might be different. So it's looking at things like subject, it's looking at things like, title, well, not title, it'd be like series, author. There's a number of different data points in the algorithm that it's looking at, but it's not based on like my personal checkout history or anything like that when I'm logged in. It's specific just to the records for privacy. Let's see, if I need to go find a number of books, will we still be able to make a temp list, and will they include call numbers? Again, that might be like a workflow question. So if that's something that you're performing now in your ILS, I mean, you should still have the availability to do that. But I'm not super sure about that question and what that all entails. So sorry. Will there be a way to see professional reviews from an item in addition to Goodreads reviews, say for library journal? So we do have some integrations, but I don't think that you all are subscribed to them. So we do have at some point, if you ever wanted to add like Novelist or something like that, which is, can be very expensive, but we do have an integration with Novelist Select, where those more like professional reviews are pulled into the data. But right now the Goodreads is just a free integration that we have turned on for you all. So the other type of reviews that are more like based on like journals and things like that are a paid, like you would have a paid subscription to it, and then we would add the integration into ASPEN. Okay. I'm going to go back out to the catalog, talk a little bit about Vdx and holds in general. Okay, so as I'm searching the catalog, I've decided that I want to place a hold on this title. So let's see, am I logged in? Yes. Okay, so I'm logged in. I'm a patron right now of this library system. So when I'm looking at this, I see a place hold button because I have access because of the owned items from the system that I belong to, I can place just a regular hold on this item, to access that from my library system. So when I click on that, there's going to be a place hold button. And if that library system that I'm in the catalog of has multiple locations to choose from that I can, pick up my holds at, I can select that. But by default, it should be set to just like my home library. And then I can submit my request. When I submit my request, again, you get those while you wait recommendations, just like you would within your Patron account, which is nice. So I could click on any of these and I could access them. It looks like this one I have a print book version of, this one I might have an ebook version of, an audiobook version of, and a print book version of, and I could click on this and access those right away. Now, let's say there's something not as common as Pride and Prejudice, if you will, that my library doesn't own. So we have built in the Vdx or ILL integration within ASPEN. So you might see this if you're looking in editions within your own library system. So in this example here for Pride and Prejudice, this library system owns several editions of Pride and Prejudice in the audio CD. They are bumped to the top to more clearly show me that this library system owns them, and I can, just place a hold on them and get that right away. But if for some reason I am really looking for a specific edition, like I really need the 1980s edition of this audiobook, then I should see a request button on my screen. Another place where this would show up is if I'm over in all of the WYLD libraries information. So if I click over here, this is going to pull up everything I have access to. As I'm performing searches, I might see this more often because this is showing me everything that other libraries in WYLD own. So as I see this request button, that's going to prompt me to place a Vdx request. So let me just click on this. A form will pop up, and this will depend on what your form looks like now and what kind of requirements you ask as a part of your Vdx form. Some of these, if you charge, fees for that Vdx request, that information, Katie and the WYLD team has worked on setting up all those Vdx forms within ASPEN. So this might look different it should look different depending on what library system you're in, what fields you require, and if you charge fees or fines or whatever you call it for that Vdx request. Just of note, when I place this request, it would take, there's a little communication between the Vdx system, like I think it's like Z portal and ASPEN, but it should show up in the patron's account in ASPEN within just a minute or so. So let's go back and look. So I just want to highlight that they do not need to log in separately to Z portal. It's completely integrated within ASPEN. The staff side of things, whatever you're doing on the staff side of things is not changing. It's just the patron experience where maybe it wasn't as intuitive before is now going to be more clear to place those requests. And they'll also be able to go into their account. And if they look at their holds, they will have a section here for those requests. So in this case, this was one of the Vdx requests that was already placed. So they'll see that they placed that request for Hotel for Dogs, and this is their pickup location for it. And then they'll have, a status, for example, of the processing of that Vdx request. So again, sometimes it might take like a minute or so because ASPEN's talking to that other system, but it should show up within the account. Also, if just a little thing to point out, if something's checked out and then someone runs to their account right away and looks at it, or they place a hold and it's just not showing up, you also can reload their account and prompt a manual reload at any time. So just point that out here. There's a little reload button. Let's see what else about Vdx. I'm trying to just read my notes really quick. Okay, I think that's the big thing. So placing a hold means it's available within my library system where I'm a patron of, and I will see the phrasing place a hold. Otherwise, I'm going to be prompted to make a request, and some sort of form is going to pop up depending on the library system and what's been set up for them, giving me more information about that request. But when I log into my account, regardless if it's just a regular hold or an interlibrary loan /VDX, I can see it all in one place. Okay, let me take a pause, take a breath, and look at the chat really quick. Okay, that was for Katie. Okay, great. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, there's a question if when we mark it as received in Vdx, so a library staff member doing this, then we'll send that to the patron account to update status received. Again, sorry, Katie, you're probably the expert on this. I believe, yes, it should update that status, but I would just confirm she has been living in Vdx for the last, like, I don't know, 4 months at this time. So she is definitely the expert on that. Okay. All right. There's no other questions or comments about the process of Vdx within ASPEN for the patron side. I will keep moving on. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to go back to searching and show you a few more things. Okay, so let's say really popular book right now, 7 Husbands. I'm just going to do 7 Husbands because I don't feel like typing out the whole title. I'm going to search for it. In this case, I just want to show you, like, as I'm scrolling through the records here, I see this box pop up and it's called Explore More. So we talked about, ASPEN being the discovery layer and wanting to point users to more, items that they might want to check out in your collection or things that they might not know about in your collection. So sometimes when you're performing a search, this Explore More box might pop up depending on that search. So in this case, I'm going to start talking about lists a little bit. In this case, it's showing me a New York Times paperback trade fiction list, a combined print and ebook fiction list, an audiobook fiction list, and also I can click here to get more information in general about lists. So what this means is that that title is showing up on these New York Times lists, and maybe as a patron, I'm interested in seeing other titles that are on those lists. So if I click into paperback trade fiction, I can get information from, like, all the titles that your library owns that correspond to the titles that are on that New York Times list. So in ASPEN, we have a direct API connection to the New York Times, and it's automatically updating those New York Times lists based on the API. So every week, and it might even be twice a week, but at least every week, it's going out and it's fetching data from the New York Times lists, and it's making a match from the titles that show up on the New York Times list, the ISBN titles, and then the ISBNs that your library owns. So let's take a look at the lists a little bit more. I didn't show you this yet, but we talked about how there's different types of searches. There's also different areas within ASPEN you can search. So I'm going to show you this list section. So I'm just going to do a blank search. So in this case, I have 18 New York Times lists that are all being pulled in from that integration that were automatically updated. So in this case, the first one, New York Times paperback nonfiction, it's saying that there's 14 titles on this list. So if I were to go to New York Times website, there might be 20 titles on this list. But what this is saying is that your library system, or this patron has access to 14 titles. We're not going to show them things that they can't have access to, but they have access to 14 of those titles on this list. So they're able to go in, click into the list, get more information about its availability, if they can access it on, Libby, and things like that. So this experience of the search interface, the grouping of formats, it carries through even in lists. Okay, this also will be if you have lists that your staff create. So in Aspen, the WYLD team is able to give out permissions for libraries to make lists like staff picks or staff created lists. Maybe you have like Wyoming State reading lists or something like that that you want to build lists off of. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second, but this list interface here would show anything that was created by staff with those permissions and also anything that's coming in from the New York Times. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about making that list. So I'm going to go back to catalog and I'm going to find a few things that I've decided that I want to read. So let's just do a blank search. Okay, so how do I make a list as a patron or a staff member? The experience is the same. Underneath the record that I want to add, there's an add to list button. When I click on this, it's going to pop up a box. So by default, if this is the first time I've made a list in Aspen, it's going to default me to a my favorites list, like just general. I know I have to start with something, but if that doesn't mean anything to me and I want to make a more specific list, I would just have to create a new list. So let's say, books I want to read in 2023. Okay, so I'm planning for next year. Then the user has an option for an access button. So this is like very important. I'm going to repeat this multiple times. Okay, so right now I am logged in just as a regular old patron. I have no staff permissions to make lists. What this means for me, what this access means to me is say I am super excited about this book list and I want to share it out with my friends. I want to email it to my book club, or I want to text the URL to my list, to my class, for example. Then I can make my list public. What that does not mean, very important, this will never be in Aspen for other people to discover or find. It only means that if I make this list public, that I can choose to share it by either URL or by email. But that interface that I just showed you where your lists were listed out, if I make this public, that does not mean that it will ever show up for anyone else in Aspen. So just like very clear with that. I was in a library that we had a different discovery layer and the list would all default to be visible to everyone. And it was horrifying. So I just like to really make it clear that it's giving them the option to share out their list if they choose to via URL or email. Okay, so I'm going to create this list and I'm going to keep adding titles to it. So I can do this in a couple different ways. I can just scroll through and keep clicking add to list. You'll see that now, oops, let me do that again. Now my list defaulted to the last active list I was working in. So now it says books I want to read instead of my favorites. So just show you that. I'm going to keep saving some titles and we will look at where this goes. Let's just add one more. Okay, so where did my list go? So let's head on back to the account up at the top. So underneath my name, you have shortcuts to the areas that we kind of looked at earlier. So I could, jump right out to my checked out titles or my holds, my library card. I also have a link out to my lists, or I can always just go into this little hamburger menu, head back to my account, and I would find my lists over here on the side. So there's two different ways to get to those. Let's just show you the. Okay, so this is what the list section looks like. So as I add more and more lists, they'll start to tile down the screen and I can select multiple lists if I have multiple lists and delete them. I can create a new list right from here. I also have some sorting options like the title of my list or when it was created or when it was updated. So let's just click into my list and I'll show you a couple other ways to add titles. So this is maybe more for staff, or maybe you have someone who has a list like in hand or on their phone or something like that, and they want to add a bunch of titles to a list. So up at the top, we have this add multiple titles button. So instead of me just clicking on things and hitting add to list, I can add multiple titles. So I don't know how people know the ISBNs of the things that they want, but again, this might be more for staff, but you can do one ISBN per line like so. So again, might just be better for staff. You could also copy and paste this from like an Excel spreadsheet. But the really cool thing that you can also do is you can just either paste or type in titles. So for things that I know are popular, you can just put the title in. One day I'm just going to have this ready on my sticky notes, but I'm going to type these in for now. Okay. So let's say I know I want to read these. I copy this over from my phone or, a sticky note on my desktop. When I click add to list, Aspen is going to automatically pull in those titles to my list. So let's see the magic happen. Here it is. So there's Becoming, there's The Help, there's Where the Crawdads Sing, and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo have been added to my list just that quick. Of course, if the book I wanted to read was just called May or June, or just like a really popular board book that maybe you have 1,000 books that have that same title, Aspen's going to pick the most relevant or its best match of that title. But where you have very popular titles where folks are reading that might have unique names, you can pretty much always just put the title in and it's going to pull in the correct title that you're looking for. Okay, there's a couple list questions. So will patrons' existing lists transfer? So there is going to be a list export. I don't remember the exact date. I believe it is sometime in December. I don't have that up right now. There will be a data pull, I believe in December, of existing lists that will transfer over into Aspen. So yes. Aren't ISBNs specific to instance? So the ISBN for paperback will not match the hardback. I'm not sure exactly what that's, in which case that's referring to. If it means like for the New York Times API, I'm not really sure. I just know that like the list will look for the specific matching ISBN. So I'm assuming like on the hardback New York Times list, it's accounting for looking for the record of the hardback. But also it's going to, no matter what in the list, it's going to show all of the formats that are available. So even though it's a paperback list or a hardback list, it's just going to show the title and any formats that they have access to. I'm sorry if that doesn't quite answer it. Can a list originally created as private be changed to public? Yes. So let's talk about some modifications in lists now that I showed you how to add things in bulk. Users have an option to edit. So if they want to edit, this is the first screen that we started at. So if I want to decide to change it one way or the other, I can do that and click update. Let's see, actually, let me make that public again. Okay, so I showed you add multiple titles. I can also, in this case, email my list. But that URL I was talking about, this URL will be specific to that patron. So this is a unique identifier for them. So if I wanted to text somebody and I made this list public, or I wanted to share this with my class or book club, those examples, I could share out this URL and it would take them just to this list that I've created. So if you're someone on here that does like marketing, for example, or social media, that might be important to know that you can get a list URL specific to the list that you've created. I can also print my list. There's 4 options for citations available. So if this is a list for a book report or something like that, you have an option. If you click on generate citations, it will pop up the citations here based on those 4 different types of citations. And you can, sort your list. We see those different sorting in almost all areas of Aspen. So I can, sort by title or which thing I recently added to my list. There's also this user defined, which is just another little step where Maybe this makes sense if it's like, these are my top 10 things I'm reading and I'm ranking them, for example, where you could move items like up and down on a list, or you could click into edit and you could say, actually, I want Night Before Christmas to be the third on my list. And I can also, once I have multiple lists under my account, I can copy an item to another list, or I can move it just fully off this list to another list. So as I have multiple lists available for me, they would be in these drop downs here. Okay. Can we export lists as a PDF? Not currently. You can hide covers, and then you could do something like the print functionality, which isn't like perfect, but you could do that and then save it as a PDF. But I wouldn't say like it's the most beautiful PDF ever that way, but that would be one workaround. And the hiding cover would save you a little bit of space too. Other questions about lists? Okay. So I just wanted to touch on one other pretty cool way that lists manifest. So let's go back to where we started and kind of go through browse categories here. Okay. So ASPEN has a few automatically generated browse categories per user. So what that means is I've logged in as a specific patron. I have this browse category, since I just made a list that automatically popped up called your lists. So now as I continue to add lists, when I log into the site, I will see that I made this books I want to read in 2023 list. But if I were to log out, no one else would see that. It's specific to my behavior as a patron. Another one that is automatically generated is recommended for you. So let's talk a little bit about recommendations really quick. So this card has already started making ratings. And what that means is, let's go back to our search, and you might have seen some of these like stars as I was performing some searches. Let's just, come on, Zoom, help me out. Okay. So what that means is, so if I have a book that I see that has a star ratings throughout, I can add my ratings when I'm logged into specific titles. So it looks like I've already added some of these, but let's say in this case, I give The Hobbit 5 stars and Tom Sawyer 4 stars, and I go through and I'm adding ratings. Once a patron adds a minimum of 5 ratings, ASPEN will start generating recommendations based off of those ratings. So we say 5 because we want to give them at least we don't want to give them just one. So what it'll do, I think it'll generate 15 right off the bat, ratings based off of, or recommendations based off those ratings. So once you start adding those ratings, let me show you, they're going to show up again in a few different places. So in your account, you'll see this recommended for you section appear. So right now, if you log in, you might not have that. So if you're wondering, why, as you add recommendations, that will pop up. Again, over on the side, you'll see recommendations for you. So if you say, actually, like, I hate this book, I don't want you to recommend that for me, you can tell ASPEN not to recommend that thing again. And also, if maybe you accidentally hit the stars, or you've decided, what, I don't want recommendations, there's a list of everything you've rated, the date that you've rated it, and you can clear these out, or you can change your ratings in your account. So the other area is it will also show up as a personalized browse category for you as you're scrolling through. So I'll have a recommended for you browse category. Now, maybe you've kind of felt like, okay, there's a lot of browse categories, and some of these just don't apply to me, and I want to customize this view. So as you're scrolling through, so let's say, for example, I'm never going to read like YA, I don't have any kids, I want to hide these. When you're logged in, you'll have the option to hide browse categories. So you can click right here, and let's say I don't want the children's one there, for example, hide that. So now I'm customizing basically the displays or the browse categories that I'm looking at, just to me and my catalog experience. Now, if I accidentally hit hide or I've changed my mind and I would like to see some teen or children's books or items, you can put into place those browse categories by clicking on show hidden browse categories, and you can turn them back on instantly if you want. But as your browse categories start to grow, and as folks add lists and they're starting to get recommendations, maybe they want to tailor their experience, just know that they do have the option to hide anything that they don't want to see or is not relevant to them. Okay, there's one more personalized browse category that I'm going to show you, and then I'll take some questions about this. So there's also the option to save searches. So I love this very practical example of the person that only reads James Patterson, and James Patterson has 10 books a month that come out, for example, and you just can't keep up with what has been published. Or you have that patron that's like stocking your DVD cart and they want to see every new DVD that maybe you've purchased, for example. So maybe to help that type of person that's really into a specific subject or a specific author, we have what you call saved searches. So you can help and empower users and show them how to do this, or set them up with them. But I'm going to show you how to do a saved search. So let's use our James Patterson example. I'll just do an author search just to show you what that looks like. Okay, so it's giving me 415 different James Patterson things. And let's just really further narrow it down. So I know he has a kids or teen series. I don't want that. I just want adult. And let's say, I just want fiction. So I'm just going to kind of show you some of this. And maybe I want it to see this in order of not the most relevant, but maybe the newest. So I'm interested in what you've recently purchased. So I'm going to change my results to date purchased. Okay, so now I really like the search and the view of the search. So I want to save this search so that I can monitor it and keep up with it. So I'm going to scroll down, and I will say in one of our new releases, we're going to move this button more prominently up to the top. But for now, I'm going to show you where this thing lives. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to my search, and I'm making sure oh, this search looks good. I like this search. I'm going to keep scrolling. James Patterson has a lot. Okay, so I have a saved search, and someone asked about exporting things to Excel. You can export a search to Excel, so that is available there. But let's say I want to save this search. Okay, so I'm going to give a name to my search. So James Patterson books, and I'm going to click save. Okay, so it saved it successfully. Awesome. I'm going to go back up to the top, and I'm going to go over to my browse categories again. And I'm going to scroll through. And now I have a new one that popped up, and it's your saved searches. So again, as I add multiples, I can keep adding and keep adding. If I'm really interested in multiple authors and multiple subjects, I could keep making those searches and saving them and naming them. And then when I log in, as you catalog and purchase new adult James Patterson fiction books, my saved search will update. So I'll be able to keep track of those titles. And I could, click on this again and get more information. I could see, okay, this is on order. Maybe I want to place a hold, etc. So it's just a way to help users kind of keep track of those things that they're already coming in and asking for all the time. Okay, so we looked at my recommendations, we looked at lists, and we looked at saved searches. Are there any questions about those? Real quick. Okay, I got one. Okay, there was a question before about, will additional review integration need to be at a system-wide level, or can it be customized by library? Can individual libraries turn on Syndetics or Novelist, or does it need to be system-wide? So that is that can be set per scoped catalog. So what that means is yes, you can individual library URLs or library, whatever you call, whatever you want to refer this to. So in this case, I would consider this one a scoped catalog. So all of Neutrono's catalog versus Park. You could choose which integration, like Novelist or Syndetics, that you'd want. Well, actually, Syndetics is shared globally, but Novelist you can turn on and off per instance. Hopefully that makes sense. Can the customer's checkout history be a browse category? No. Not that. Just save searches, lists that they want to create, and recommendations. Just to follow up on that, their checkout history, there is options for reading history. Let's go into my account and just touch on that really quick. So there is an option to record your reading history. There'll be a little bit of a note about privacy and what reading history means. And you can start or stop your reading history within ASPEN. So these are titles that I have checked out to me right now. So it just started to populate that reading history. But at any time, if I said, I don't want this to show up, you could delete those titles, you can delete all, you can stop recording your reading history, you can export your reading history, and that is available for the reading history. And as it grows, you can also like search. You can, I spelled it wrong. You can like search your reading history, for example, and filter it down as if if you have those patrons that have maybe like thousands of things in their reading history. And I will say that this is like it's an opt-in functionality. So, all right, will lists migrate over from the old system to the new system? So yes, I did touch on that a bit, that there's going to be an export from like a data dump, basically, I believe in December of lists. So that work has already been scheduled. And what that means is we'll just be getting those lists and moving them over to the new system. Okay. Anything else about the recommendations, the save searches, or lists? Getting close on time. Okay, let me show one little other fancy kind of feature in ASPEN, and then that's it for me. So I'm going to go back over to Park because I already performed this search, but let's say fall's in the air, it's getting like a little bit autumny outside, and I'm really in the mood for like pumpkin. So I search pumpkin as a keyword search, and I perform a search. Whoa, what's this? Help decorate the Park County Libraries with literary pumpkins. So this is what we call a placard. I like to think of this as a little like digital billboard. So your WYLD admin team has been hard at work creating these throughout different catalogs. These can be based on whatever you want them to be based on. So they can be, a lot of times it's either databases, it could be like read-alike lists, or in this case, it could be events that you're looking to promote. So these can be set on a timeline to expire. So for example, if this is not applicable to your users when they search for pumpkin in November or December, this can be set to only be showing from a certain time frame. It's also tied to specific keywords. So I didn't write down all the keywords that this one's tied to, but your library staff can set them. So maybe if I search fall or Halloween, or decorate or character or something like that, this one might pop up. Whereas if I was searching for, I don't know, hiking, I might see information about fall hobby fair and information about, I don't even know what this is. I just knew that I saw it when I was searching hiking. Fun things to do in the area. Really, I just wanted to point out that sometimes depending on the keyword search, we did a lot of searches today and these didn't come up. So depending on the specific search that your user performs, you might see what we call a placard, or I like to just call it like a little digital billboard that pops up promoting other areas of either your collections, maybe databases, or events that you have. One other thing with events, I think there might be the only one that has it, but I did want to point out, we do have an events integration with Library Calendar and Library Market. And if you do have that integration, or you do pay for one of those services, your catalog might have this event search built in. So just kind of wanted to show this off. or if you're considering maybe getting a catalog in the future, just know that, or I'm sorry, a calendar in the future, this is an option. So with this integration, you get a separate events interface where you can just search events. There's a number of facets where you can narrow down by just like kids or teen events, or you know, maybe the topic, the type of program it's on. But also, if I was to just do a keyword search in my catalog, again, just for like Halloween, because I'm excited it's that time of year. We talked a little bit about that Explore More box. Because this library has an events integration, I'm getting information about events tied to my keyword search of Halloween. So it's showing me any like Halloween related programs that I have available at my library. Whew, okay, I just talked a lot. Are there any questions about anything at all that you've seen today with searching and relevancy, grouping, patron account? General question: is there a short informative tutorial video about ASPEN that libraries can add to our website that highlights briefly how to use the new catalog, show off some features for patrons? That is a great question. We do not have that as like the ASPEN team, and I'll tell you the reason why is because when you're looking at all of your different catalogs, they're very different because they're so customizable. We can probably help you all make like a more general video, but sometimes it's confusing to patrons if they're only on like Parks catalog, for example, and a video is based off another catalog, that might be confusing. I don't know what like the admin, like Wild team is thinking for like tutorial videos or what that's going to look like. But it's definitely like a great question and something to explore as you all are like going live. We do have something called a quick start guide that I will share out with the admin team. That can be customizable with like your own logo and things like that. And that's more of like a PDF. You could link to it, or you could, you know, send it out in a newsletter or something like that. You could print it out and put it by your library computers, for example. We can definitely share that, and that has just like screenshots and areas of some of like the key interface features in ASPEN. So I'll share that out with your WYLD admin team. Great question. Write that down. All right. Anything else? WYLD admin team, is there anything you want to add that I did not cover or that you feel like is important to note today? Putting you all on the spot.
Oh, this is Katie. Sorry, thought I unmuted myself. We try to answer as many questions as we could, more related to WYLD in the chat. But if we miss something in the chat, or you want to discuss it further, or you have a new question, please contact the WYLD office. You can email us at our support email or open a ticket in Freshdesk.
Thank you. And this recording will be available probably tomorrow. It's 6 o'clock here. It needs to download and stuff, but I'll make sure to get it out to the WYLD admin team tomorrow. So if you want to relive this hour and a half with me again, the recording will be available. Or if you have someone on your team that, you know, wasn't able to make it today and you think there's like good information that you want them to see, I'll be sending out that link for them, and then they can kind of send it out to you all. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time and wonderful questions, and we're so excited to work with you all. All right. Have a good night. Thank you. Bye.